Welcome back to the More Than Logic podcast, where we connect you with entrepreneurs and experts of all different levels for your own growth, learning, and to live your best life. The man sitting next to me right now needs no introduction. Some of you might know him as your future president. And I think we're set to have a lot of knowledge coming in, philosophy. We just had a little discussion before this. And I think today we're going to be reaping some very, very, very interesting topics. So without further ado, I will let you introduce yourself, Dr. Amupanda. I think I'll call you Dr. Amupanda, but first I need to say congratulations. You just mentioned to me now that you've recently become a professor. So, and we're speaking about titles now, so I will give them all to you, Dr. Professor Amupanda. Welcome to the podcast. Please introduce yourself to the people.
I always struggle with that. With the introduction. Recently, we had this one deputy minister who have taken me to court, and in the court proceedings, it became very interesting, and the judge even had to say, I have dealt with many cases, including cases of medicine, but I've never had the cases that I had to discuss testicles. Now, it was you see, the Africans, they have some sort of names that you have. That's why I'm saying these things about titles and things like that. So the name that I go by traditionally with a serious spiritual, psychosocial, psychocultural meaning is Etondo Janehare.
Okay.
It's like it's very difficult to explain, but it means, I do accept that Etondo means a testicle.
Yes.
A testicle of Nehale. Nehale was one of the warriors and in the community where I'm from. Had he not fought, these farms would have come all the way until our village. So he was the last man standing in defending that territory of what now become present day Oambole. Now with the translation, there are phrases that are not translatable. And in a cultural context, it's not always the same. So
I get what you mean. Yes.
The name is not necessarily testicles. It means it refers to testicular fortitude, right? Some sort of something that is related to masculinity. But referring to the testicular fortitude and the strength of Nehale. So then this lady was now giving her testimony and saying, he called himself the testicles of Nehale. And the judge was so wondering that, what is going on? So when I took a stand, I had to explain that to the Africans, the naming is these things of mooks, tooks, looks, taks, nicks. These are new things, because because of inferiority complex, anything that appears with an X, tick, it looks like it's very nice and sophisticated. But in most African ways of naming children is like you find Amopadi. It refers to a foot. Amshira, a tail. Amtse, the head. So you can't translate things like that. You can't say, for instance, if you just read, say, Amutse is not working. Maybe you are referring to the fact that this person is unemployed. But if you take a literal translation like what the lady did now with the testicles, it will mean the head is not working. Now, remember, Amutse is a deputy minister of information. So if you say Amutse is not working, and then you have a literal translation. So we are names after organs, body parts,
different things,
livers. Like that's how it is.
It's like Zimbabwean names where they name you after trouble. Your name in English would be troublesome. problems.
And things like that. So I always struggle because of that. I always struggle with introducing myself. Of course, I have. I'm Job, like all other black people have these names that we have been given. Shipululo, Kananjebo, Mpanda. The name Shipululo, I'm the second carrier of the name Shipululo.
Okay. So you're a junior to your father, I'm assuming?
No.
Okay.
I was named after my uncle.
Okay.
Now, my grandmother, my father's mother, was pregnant with my uncle when they were traveling from Marala to Onjojo. Onjojo was the only shop in northern Namibia at the time.
Yeah.
This must have been in the 1970s. Yeah, it must have been in the 1970s. So they were now going to buy a plough.
For farming.
Yeah,
yes.
To plough. And then my uncle, according to the story, was born on the way on the journey to go and buy the plough.
Yeah,
that's how he was named. Chipololo actually means a plough.
Ah,
is it a plough or a plough?
Yeah, plough is. At this point, I understand. The culture comes to play as well with things like this.
The difficult thing is that every time when somebody asks me to introduce myself, I struggle. Do I say I'm an activist? Do I say I'm a political scientist? Do I say I'm a university professor? But tomorrow, how, for example, they are mismanaging the university, I might not be there forever, you see?
Yeah, of course.
So do I say what? What is it that becomes who you are apart from the name? So that's why I'm just trying to give you a context how I struggle with introduction.
It's like saying, if you stripped yourself of all your achievements, what would you be?
What would become of...
Yes.
Yeah, that's why, for example, I would have said, no, I'm a Tondojane because that's what defines my life, that testicular fortitude. And the key lessons and picking up the spear of Nehale when he fell down and protected us. By the time he died, he had protected that land and territory. He have left for us good lessons for us to learn, our ability to stand up even when it's not popular to do so, the ability to stand up even when the system and the establishment believes that what you're doing is wrong. So I'm picking up the spear of Nehale to soldier on and continue.
Yes.
Yeah, Nehale was, for example, taking on the Germans that were that fought. Yeah. So I'm in court fighting the removal of the red line.
Okay.
So I spiritually believe that there's a symbiotic relationship and connection between what Nehale was doing in 1900. Why am I forgetting the Battle of Namtuni? It must have been 1902 or so.
Okay.
I can't. We have these titles of professors, and people don't expect you to make mistakes.
We've got Google these days. Yeah. when you need me, I've got the phone ready.
Yeah. So if you just put there the Battle of Namtuni.
Yeah, let's search it. The Battle of
Namtuni. They write it Namtuni, but it's actually Amtuni wa Manenge. But because they couldn't understand, they just called it Namtoni.
Namtoni.
Yeah, but it's Amtuni, but it's Namtoni. It's like a tosha. It's not a tosha, it's actually a totha.
It was 28 January 1904.
1904.
Yes, you were very close, 2 years away.
So by that time when the battle was taking place, he was last defender, last man standing.
Yeah.
Nehale was the last man standing during that time. So I'm the last man standing in fighting the removal of the red line. So there's a symbiotic relationship and spiritual relationship. So that's why when it's something that I'm more able to defend and be able to protect and identify with, in terms of that. No one can ever take that away from me. I won't become anything else. That's not the title, it's the part of my identity and what I think is a role that I'm playing in our society.
And I've been reading about you over the last few days. I think the first time we met was in the studio when you were doing your address to the nation. But also what I've realized is you're 36 years old currently, right?
But I'll be 37 in 3 weeks' time.
In 3 weeks, 28 August, yes. I also know your birthday now. But also what I realized is you've got quite a few achievements under your belt. Obviously, we've spoken now about achievements and we don't want to fall too far into them. But I think it's quite impressive. You've published 3 books. Is that right?
How many books do I have?
There are more. Yeah. So,
no.
Yeah.
You are correct. There are 2.
Yeah, 2. You've got 2 books, and then you were also mayor 2020 to 2021. It's not every day I have a conversation with a 36-year-old man. Published books. You've run for mayor, 3 universities, and now you're a professor and doctor. And I think that tells me you're almost what some would say an overachiever. Would you say you're an overachiever, or is there something more to it?
I live my life on the principle of what is called management by objectives. I think I'll go crazy if I don't have set objectives to achieve.
Yeah.
And I think that approach of management by objective have really assisted me, because at all material time, I always know what is to be done. So that question is that's why if for instance I wake up like nowadays when I'm on sabbatical, my wife is in Zambia now. She's the one who takes the child to school. Only when she's unable to do that. So this whole week I have to wake up and take this child to school. So I usually sleep late. Like I will sleep at 12, 11, 12, 1. I can't. There's always something to be done. And because I had to clear the schedule, the morning and anything, I have to cancel any meeting that has to do with the morning. It looked so abnormal. Like because now I drop the child, then I must see what's basically happening. Because it's management by objective. So the achievement becomes the outcomes of the process of management by objectives. So I say to myself that I need to study this, I need to achieve this, I need to, and that's why sometimes people think you're crazy. Like before I became mayor, I put up billboards that and then becoming mayor, and people say, this is a joke, all those things, and then the rest is history. I think if I didn't, so in other words, I set quite a number of objectives. Some of them are 20 years, 10 years, like that, 20 years plan. Like in 20 years time, this is what I want to be able to do. And then from the 20 years, I have a 10-year plan that still speaks to that.
And then you've got
10-year plan, 5,
3, 2,
like that.
1.
Even including the 6 months.
So
and sometimes it's good. It's good. It's exciting. It keeps you focused, but it also gives you a lot of stress. And sometimes I stress about things that I'm okay. There's food at home. I'm okay. I'm not sick. Everything is so. In other words, people that are around you, they say, "But what's wrong with you?" But I'm getting stressed and worried about
a 20-year plan.
Yes, something, because the 20-year plan depends on the 10 years plan. The 10 years depend on the 5 and things like that. So with that mindset and orientation, the achievement kind of become blurry and insignificant, because it's almost like I woke up to run. So when I'm running and I'm the first one to run in the street, it is no longer an achievement. It's a consequences of the decision that you have taken. So I think it has just become like a lifestyle. Really become like a lifestyle, management by objectives. It works and it helps.
Interesting.
So I, for instance, I wanted to be a professor by 30. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a professor by 30. But I set those goals when I was in my final year. So I did not know what how long it takes and things like that. So I literally wanted to be a professor by 30.
And when did you achieve it?
So then I went to Stellenbosch. I got my master's in 2012, but I couldn't join university immediately. So that I'm able to be, because some of these requirements are you need to have taught for this number of years and things. So I was delayed because I thought by 2012, when I got my degree, I would immediately be teaching at the university, because I had planned to come back. But it didn't happen until 2015. That's like 13, 14.
3 years
later. So, but I still managed to. I was delayed with 6 years. Well, technically 5, because somebody was delaying and sitting on these things. And so when I joined the university, even when I was SRC president at the University of Namibia, the ultimate objective was to become a professor.
Okay.
That was the ultimate objective. Now, when I was casting that dream and hope and plan and objective, was that I didn't even have a master's degree. You need to have a master's degree, you need to be a lecturer, then you become a senior lecturer before you can become a professor. You need to have a PhD, you need to publish you need to have 17 peer-reviewed journals. That basically means that your publication must be reviewed internationally by different scholars and things like this. It's not just like where your boss decides you are now what. There's an assessment that happens internally, there's an assessment that happens internationally also, and things like that. So when I eventually achieved that objective, then you look back and say, yo, it has been long, ne?
Yeah.
In my mind tells me that I'm done with this. I've ticked this one off. And but to other people outside, they say, wow, like it's. But for me, it's
just another day in the life.
Yes,
it's just another day.
It's the end of it, because I've ticked off whatever it is that I wanted to do.
Interesting.
In 10 years' time, I hope to be a successful farmer
as well. Do you have some business and entrepreneurship experience as of current?
Well, I think I'm a bad businessman.
Why do you say that?
I don't think I'm what I've learned about myself, I can literally, somebody can come to me who does business, and I can advise them exactly what they will do. But I will not be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I've also learned, I've tried several business. I have a bookshop.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make money, but I'm just kidding. Because
thank you for your honesty. Yeah.
It's because I attach
emotionally to it.
Yes. So it's not like I need to. People must read. I don't look at. You see, for example, I look at these business people and I realize, man, you need to. So for this business person, it's like when they look at you, they look at a customer. They don't look at a human being. Whether you are buying a book to go and burn it, they don't care. For as long as you are buying, they've sold their product. Yeah. Like I must undergo a transformation so that I can look at the book as a product. Yeah, because I'm looking at the book as knowledge. Yeah. Yeah, for example, is that we need to fire somebody, and then I'm still,
avoiding that topic. Yeah, I completely understand. I think.
But I haven't given up business. Yeah. I haven't given up business. I think my role is to create ideas and vision and plans and get somebody to execute it.
Of course.
I think I will be more successful by establishing a team of people who are far from me. Yeah. For example, if I establish an entity and it has a board of directors, and the board of directors recruit and hire a CEO. Yeah. So and then I only give ideas to my board of directors. I think that's the only condition I'm going to be successful. But if I'm close to this, because then you will expect people to be revolutionaries, you expect them to have a human spirit, expect them to be Afrocentric, to value Africans. But I've realized in the capitalist world, it doesn't work like that.
Of course.
I maybe that's not my purpose, to be able to be the orthodox capitalist who goes out there and take risk and things like that. But unfortunately, we live in a capitalist society. Money is a medium of what is the medium of what?
Exchange.
Yeah. So you can't live without
money.
Commerce. So we will have to transact. We have to participate in these things.
I think.
But I, for some reason, I try to move away from entrepreneurship to focus on ideas. Yeah. But with the passage of time, it always comes.
Of course, I think
with the passage, as I'm getting old now, I'm more concerned about building credible and strong institutions. So one day I'll probably be able to establish a very strong enterprise, provided that I'm able to remove my emotions and my involvement from it. Probably that's what it requires of an entrepreneur. Your ability to divorce your emotions, your ability to take decisions in the interest of the product and the service that you're providing.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur myself, I think I always joke around with my friends and think like I think countries would be more successful if they were run like businesses. I always just laugh around with my friends because on the other hand also, if you really run a business where you really care about people, like you've mentioned, you really want to have social impact, because you've got entrepreneurs, then you have the social entrepreneurs, the ones that are like, what impact am I making in this country? Like recently this weekend, I had the privilege of going to Malta. Have you been to Malta before? It's a very, very dry city. Nothing much happening there. We're going with there's an NGO there trying to build a desert economy in Malta here. So they were showing us around. We're doing a production with our agency, and it's really lovely to see that these guys, they're doing tourism in the south, right? But now they've they've said, let's put our funds together. We don't need to make any profit out of it. Let's see what we can do with Malta here. And now they're building an economy where, the supply of vegetables, for example, comes through Malta here now, and then all the other tourist locations in the south, they do their laundry in Malta here. Because if you do it in the desert, you won't get enough water for the rest of the stuff. So they've got a little system there where some people are slowly starting to get jobs. So it's an interesting thing to see. And I think eventually social entrepreneurship is something that we need as well. I mean, especially if you're doing politics now. What's your take on things like, for example, because people love speaking about the high unemployment rate in Namibia, yeah. But I also like for me, when I look at Namibia, I also look at it from the fact that independence was achieved in 1990, and since then, where are we going as well? How do you look at things in that sense? Yeah,
I'll come to that. There's something that restored my faith on entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I still believe, because I always wondered, am I crazy, or why is it that I think the way that I do? But then I looked at the man called Manfred
Goldbeck. Ah, yes.
Of Gondwana.
Yes.
At one point he was like a MD, CEO type of thing.
Yeah, he was here today actually earlier. It would have been lovely then. Yeah.
So Mani built the organization, and he retreated. Right? And he retreated, and he just became a brand ambassador or some sort of somebody relatively younger takes over. There's a board and things like that. And he just retreated. And he goes around taking photos,
giving ideas,
and putting them on the page, on his page. Then I mean, he's a white man.
Yeah.
I'm from a black consciousness background. But then I look at him that it can work. Look at what this man did. He was able to build an institution, hand it over, but just be there, right? Just to ensure. He's still there. You see him around.
Of course.
But the institution is being run on sound business principles. You see, and you could see that he has a heart for human beings. He's more concerned about the employees getting shares in Gondwana and things like that. So I found it quite very interesting. So it tells me that it is actually possible. Money gives me that imagination that it's actually very possible, but without undermining the very principles and ethos of entrepreneurship, and then some sort of coexistence between the business principle and social entrepreneurship. So that's just on that specific aspect in terms of that. I think finding a delicate balance would because ultimately the entity must not stagnate; it must continue. Now, Where are we going? Independence has been achieved. There is a problem of unemployment. Okay, and these people who are unemployed or employed, where are they employed? In the economy, right? Now, one of the things that people fail to realize, which is also what have gotten us here, is that there are two things that are supposed to have happened in the economy. There is supposed to be economic planning, right? You need to plan the economy.
Yeah.
What is it that we want to do?
Yeah.
But obviously, what underpins economic planning is economic understanding. Who we are, what is our competitive advantage, what do we have, what exists out in the world, who do we integrate with, what is the opportunity cost, and things like that. All that thinking leads to economic planning, and economic planning is underpinned by some sort of economic architecture or economic engineering, so to say. So because the employment is an economic activity, right? People cannot be employed in the air, they must be employed somewhere, isn't it? There must be goods and services. There must be goods and services. There must be exchange of these things. And that is the first thing that you do. Anybody who understands economic development understand that there must be a clear program of economic planning. What do we want to achieve in a year? What do we want to achieve in 5 years and 6 years and things like that? I actually think economic planning is the same way how we plan for our lives and careers. So when we fail in planning for our careers, it's exactly the same as a principle when the economy fails because of the lack of planning and strategic foresight by those that are in charge, right? But the plans are nothing without implementation. The plans are nothing without somebody putting them to work. The plans are nothing without being actualized, really. The plans are nothing without somebody who's bulldozing and pushing and rallying everybody around that planning. Okay? What is that? What is it that then supposed to happen when you do economic planning? It's the second leg of economic management. You plan your industries, you plan your industrial policy, you plan your strategic intervention with the economy. You plan what is it that you want to do. You, for example, look at the countries such as South Africa, our largest partner. We export a lot, we import a lot from the same country. What's our relationship with South Africa? Is it sustainable? Can it continue that way? Recently, Old Harbour and List decided that they are going to cut ties with Pick and Pay. I was very excited about it because it's about time, when something like that happens. So it's economic planning and economic management. So you plan, for example, in Vision 2030, they were saying that we want the economy to grow at 8%, I think. By 2030, they want the economy to grow by 20%, 8%. Of course, we never reach there. Is it 8 or even 9% or so?
Economic growth.
Yeah, they want our economy to be growing at 8%. So that is the forecasting, that is the planning.
Yearly, is this now yearly?
Yes, that's what I was saying, yearly.
Do you know what the current inflation rate is?
Well, I'm not an economist.
Let me quickly check that because
if you look at the figures, in terms of it should be available at NSA.
It's 4.6%.
Yeah.
4.6%.
So then that's what they were planning. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with strategic foresight, and in fact, it's a mandatory thing. That's what you're supposed to be doing. But there was a dismal failure of economic management to be able to actualize and achieve what you did in economic planning. Right? We have had economic growth. But what has actually happened because of a lack of economic management we had economic growth, but it's a jobless growth that leads you now to unemployment. Because somebody failed to be on the lookout. They failed to conceptualize. They failed to understand that economic planning must be accompanied by economic management. For instance, you keep throwing a lot of money to your problems. Immediately when you saw that unemployment is getting out of hand, you ought to say as government, okay, what is a tool that you have of economic management? One of the tools that you have of economic management is budget. Yeah? What do these guys do? They throw a lot of money to perceived problems. And then you say, okay, no, we are going to build a hospital. And that's where the government ends. We are going to give a tender to the person to build a hospital. But that person was probably building another hospital from the previous financial year just next to each other. So they use exactly the same number of employees. If this guy has an architect, why would they go and employ another architect on the same project that they've just done or they are busy with? You follow? So you have a situation where...
So it doesn't necessarily create job opportunities.
Yes, because it's the same guy who's building schools, or building hospital or building clinics. He decides that, because remember you are getting a tender to build a clinic. Your deliverable is that you must be by this stage, the engineers, whenever it is that they come. So, but you are not controlled or required to work every day. You can decide that this week people are not at the site, will come next week. So you can take your workers from this side to another side. You delay all the projects. You use exactly the same employees. If at this side you had 100 employees, and when you are getting this tender, there is a calculation to say, 100 employees. 100 employees who are employed in this project will appear to this, and they will appear 100. That illusion, they start wondering, man, we are having all this project, but we are not making a dent on unemployment. You see, because there is no management. You plan a hospital, you plan a clinic, you plan a road, you plan all these things, imaginary opportunities, but you give them to the same person. But if you had given it to different people, you would be able to pick those things. That's also a problem. IUM, UNAM, NAST, vocational training centers, Pervitia University, Triumphant College, all these institutions, every year they have a graduation. We probably have about 5,000 graduates every year.
Yes.
In all, that's a conservative figure.
Yeah.
Right? This government can't tell you how many people graduated, in what subject, how many of those that graduated have jobs. If you are doing economic management, you ought to know that, okay, and when you go to bed and have a sleepless night, you ought to know that, man, I'm having this problem because I have 100 medical doctors, right? You're talking now as government. So I have 100 medical doctors that have been produced, okay? Next year is likely to have the same number because in the third year, this is where the students are. In the second year, in final year, you see, it's a production of an assembly line. Yeah, as an entrepreneur, you would know that you know for sure that your machine produces what number of t-shirts per hour.
Yes.
And if you need to produce and submit to a client 10,000 t-shirts and you have 5 days, you know how your capacity of the machine and what your machine can produce. You will be able to determine whether you are able to deliver or not. This is not what happens. Sometimes when people are talking about business principle, they are always just talking about performance management, but the business principle also means output. If we are to learn from the business principle, sometimes when people are talking about business principle, it's just public administration learning from business principles of performance management and things like that. Okay, but you ought to know that this is a production of skills. So you must be, as president or as anybody, or even as a member of parliament, you must know how many low skills individuals are out there. How many unemployed people are out there, but also how many unemployable people are out there. You know, people think that these are unemployed people, therefore you must just create jobs.
Yeah.
You might create those jobs, but those jobs will never be able to do because the people are unemployable. So clearly, this is a guy who's just smoking dacha there. He has no sense of responsibility in his whole life. If he comes to work on Monday, the following day he will not come to work. He doesn't have any necessary qualification. Yeah. So you need to do something about this person. Yeah.
It's like one thing I've also noticed is when you go to the skilled labor, there are lots of opportunities there, but you find that most of the people don't have the skills to qualify for skilled labor, for example. So that could be one example to what you're sharing here. Yes.
Yeah, because it's management. So you need to know what is out there. Because now this is basically what's happening. This is what I plan to produce, and this is what's happening.
Yeah.
So do you have as a person who you put the t-shirts in the production, and then you just go home and sleep? Because you assume the machine is good. That's exactly how they are managing our economy.
Yeah.
Then you just discover that you go and sleep, but the ink is finished.
Yeah.
But you assume that because you have put the machine in working, because you have planned for the economy. So you need somebody to actually check whether the machine is going, whether the ink is going.
Of course.
You know? Or there's a paper jam.
Yeah.
Even in printing, you don't just press print and then you go. You check whether the thing is printing. That's exactly what is happening in our country. These guys, they switch on the machine, they put in the production, and they go. By the time they come back, only 5 t-shirts have been produced because something was wrong or the power went off. They didn't even check maybe on the thing itself, on the
let's call it a meter board.
Yeah,
let's
meter box.
Yeah.
These days I keep forgetting the English language. So on the meter box, there was only 10 units left. But you went home because you believed that when you come in the morning, the t-shirts will be done. That's exactly what they are doing with our economy. There is no economic management. There's nobody whose sole responsibility is to manage the economy and see what is going on. So we can't win the unemployment situation without economic management. Somebody must manage the economy. Somebody must be... It's like in ICU. You do an operation, they operate on you, and the operation is successful. But even the operation is successful, they still put you in the intensive care unit, ICU.
Yeah.
And there are 24-hour nurses who are just there to see what is happening. And they will see you see even on the movies, they say, tee, tee, tee,
yeah.
And then it reports already, and somebody saying, hey, chief, this guy is about to kick the bucket, you know? Yeah.
Interesting that you say that. I think there's a question I've been wanting to ask now that I'm going to quickly ask. It was mainly based on, I want to know what kind of a childhood did you have? What was your childhood like?
Ooh. Well, I grew up in a village. We used to play a lot. I played all sort of games. And we used to take care of the goats, but for some reason our goats never multiplied. They were really between 5 and 10.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy it. You know, sometimes when people succeed and they grow and they become somebody, they have a tendency to lie.
Yeah.
And to project the picture of that they were good, well behaved, and things like that. Our house is next to the road. I used to push the goats in the road so that they can get bumped, so that we can have meat, so that particularly the problematic goats. There was a goat called Nivundo. And Nivundo was, for some reason, the male offsprings of Nivundo were always very problematic.
Yeah.
Now, because you must remember that the reason of taking care of the goats is because of the cultivation season.
Yeah.
So everybody in the village is having their mahangu, so you need to make sure that they only eat grass and not the mahangu. They don't go in other people's fields. And sometimes maybe I used to think that if we just maybe a truck comes, particularly when I hear the trucks, there's a huge sound, and I'm close by, because you can hear the truck from far. So we push the goats
to
closer,
get
closer to the road. Then you push them, and you're hoping maybe the truck just come and decimate everything.
Oh my God!
Sometimes we will succeed, but for some reason, I used to do that, and but
you wanted some meat at home, eh?
Some meat at home, but I also wanted them to deplete so that I don't have to take care of goats.
Yeah. Would you say you come from a background of poverty?
I mean, it's obvious. It's
It's
not unique to me. You know, at one point, like, our house is next to the road, so they would, when we were taking, and that's how tough the situations were, I wouldn't actually argue like this urban poverty where people don't have something to eat. It's just that there wasn't much choices, You would have from Monday to Friday, breakfast, lunch to dinner is porridge.
Pap. Yeah.
So it's I wouldn't say is that there wasn't plenty. Yeah, but we didn't starve. There wasn't just plenty. And we had to manage whatever it is that was available. There wasn't luxury. I can't really say it's poverty. And it's just that, yes, at face value, people say it's poverty. They will go to the villages and say it's poverty.
Yeah.
But poverty would mean the serious lack, Like you go to bed on an empty stomach. And even at the time, because my grandmother is a dressmaker, she would make those shorts in the villages. And I remember when the new design came off, we used to call them two pockets.
Yeah.
Like it's a short, and then it was this pocket here.
Yeah.
Called two pocket. Then she would sew those, and I would go and sell. And as the vehicle passes by, and then maybe somebody just throw away the plastic, we would literally run to go and grab the plastic. And if I think about it, sometimes, say for example, the plastic was this when the KFC thing came. I think KFC must have come in the first one was at Oshakati, and we know obviously how the thing comes, and somebody just throw it, and then we'll go there and get the bones and eat from the bones.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that we were hungry. It's just that the search for variety.
Yeah.
And what we will do, because of those bones and the smell.
Yeah.
So what we will do, we will make sure that, and when you go home, you will show others to smell. You see, I had nice food. So I had nice food to show, because of the leg.
Yeah.
It's always impressive. You go and visit your aunties in Oshakati, and I remember I would go visit my aunt in Oshakati. The husband used to work he retired now. He used to work in the NDF. So they'll get this canned fish. So I'll get it, and I'm at the hostels, but I will still keep it.
Yeah.
It's for me, but I will still keep it until I go home, so that I'm the boss.
Yeah.
When I have what others don't have.
Of course.
So, yes, I grew up in an environment that didn't have plenty.
Yeah.
But was it an environment of poverty? Well, probably. Because poverty manifests in many ways. And people always don't understand that there's also what is called hunger poverty. Yeah, that has to do with food, and things like that, hunger poverty. But I mean, it was normal to have one trouser, for instance. Like, if I'm wearing, like what I'm wearing now in the village, is that it's absolutely clear that I'm going to church.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to the hospital, or I'm going somewhere. Like, you all have the same clothes that you wear and it was kind of, when you think about it, yes, there wasn't plenty, but when you think about it, it was some kind of discipline. It really had us disciplined, or our ability to keep our things. So we grew up with my brother, my uncle. My uncle is born I'm born in 87. My uncle was born in 88. And my brother was born in 89.
Yeah.
So we were almost like we grew up like triplets.
Yeah.
My mom, for instance, used to buy. It would be the same. The clothes would be the same because we were just. I was a bit taller, but now my brother is the tallest and fat.
Yeah.
And I'm actually the shortest. When we were growing up, I was taller. Like it was almost like this. This was me. This is Hank. This is Andreas and Samuel. But now, for some reason, the things move like this. I'm the shortest.
Yeah.
So it will be some sort of sense of discipline. Really, when I think about it, the reason why we went to church, I don't really think we went to church because we wanted to hear the word of God.
Oh, why was it then?
It's an opportunity to wear those clothes that are in the...
You already know what this is. 100,000 followers on YouTube, this is what you get for it. So we already have the proof to show for our work. Now you want to start your podcast, video production, content creation, but you obviously don't want to waste your money. That's why you've got to work with a team that already knows what it's doing. Find us at Pro Studio. You already know it for yourself. This is hard work. See you then. The special clothes.
Yeah, we wear them on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like it's on Sunday, you wake up, you dress properly. It's an opportunity. The next time when you wear those type of clothes, you'll be following. We'll be following Sunday for 2 reasons: to get an opportunity for you to wear those clothes because at school you wear this school uniform.
Yeah.
And you don't go and chill elsewhere because you just chill in the village. And we went to the village specifically for the clothes, but also for an opportunity to, because after church, the parents will buy the fat cakes and things there.
Yeah.
And
then you have food to eat.
Yes, and the food to eat is a variety. And that's always sometimes I think that we make a mistake and think when we say I don't think in the village we really had hunger poverty. Yeah. There was just that.
Yeah.
You see, for example, comparison, they say comparison is a thief of joy.
Yes.
Because you never actually appreciate what we have. But when you think about it properly and say, you know that for you to eat something in an urban context such as where we are now, you have to buy it.
Yeah.
Right? But if people don't cook in the village, and it's during this time of August, September, there's trees that are publicly available fruits. Nyandi, embe, there are all those. You just go there and you take and eat. So when you think about it, there is nothing like that. There's no place in an urban area where you just go and pick food, just like that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you go. Like every season, there's some food that just come during the flood.
Yeah.
Because of our flood plain there, everyone just go and get your bucket and you go and catch the fish. It's a food that is easily available.
Yes.
But to go to the sea, you must get the fishing quotas and things like that. So sometimes when we think about poverty in villages, particularly in typical African communities, is really a misnomer, because when your parents die, for instance, on the day after you are buried, the decision will be taken who must inherit the children. But I mean by inherit is not take over the children, take the responsibilities of the children. And it doesn't mean just by name. Literally on that day, if it is decided that the orphans will be taken by Job, okay? When Job goes that day, you also pack your bags and follow. So it was kind of some sort of mechanism, safety net. That's why in those villages we never had street kids. It's like it's a misnomer. If it's heard in the village that no, there is somebody who just sleep there, the whole community will be talking and say, "What did you hear? There's a person who apparently sleep there." It's there's no such thing. That's why you can't even find a street. That word doesn't exist in our language.
Yeah.
For instance, like street kids.
Street kids, no.
Yeah, because they try now to just say uno namo mapanda anda, but that's not. There's no child by birth who is, because there's nobody who goes and give birth in the street and that's where you live. Your house is a street. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So I grew up comparatively. There wasn't a lot when you are looking at the modern context. But I don't think in the village there was really hunger poverty.
Yeah.
You could, if you don't have food in the house,
you could go next door.
You could go to the neighbor.
If you don't have salt,
yeah. So
may I have some salt?
Yeah. So it was always easier, and I think. But the most important thing is that I have 2 boys, and that also worried me now. Is that environment actually shaped me, particularly ability to dream, aspire, and hope and plan. So I remember one day I think I was in grade 3 or so.
Yes.
And I was thinking to myself, man, is there ever going to be a time where I'm going to be fluent in English? You know, like that, literally. Yeah. But my son is in grade 1 and he speaks better English than me. You see. So sometimes I wonder how easy or how difficult it will be to bring up our children in this environment, because my son picks the old one, he picks the phones, and every day he says, "Tate, you must buy me this." And I say, "No, we can't find it." "No, it's on Amazon."
Amazon,
I never bought things on Amazon.
Yeah.
And then the other day he says, "No." Then I said, "No, I don't. It's very difficult for us to buy things on Amazon." "Then you must try Alibaba."
Yeah.
Like I'm wondering,
where is he getting this information? Yeah.
You see, from these phones and internet and the children that we're having. So we sent the younger one to the village, because the old one, when he was born in town and he stayed with us in town. But we sent the younger one. He just turned. He's born on the 21st of May. So immediately after he turned 2, we sent him to the village. So my wife believes really in breastfeeding. She breastfeed all these kids until 2. And of course there's a scientific basis, and there's also a cultural basis that it's children tend to develop very well that are breastfed. And so sometimes I keep wondering, I keep thinking, how are we going to bring up our children in this context of the urbanized place that doesn't have a sense of when I grow up, I have a good understanding of collectivism. I have a good understanding of trees that belongs to all. Right? But my son, I wonder whether he's going to have that understanding of collectivism. So you see, so it requires a lot of work. Either we have to transform what it appears to be the urban center, or we have to just accept and say that, look, well, those were our times, these ones have a different time.
Yeah, I think as well, because if you had the history that you have, and then your child comes to have the same history, you would also ask yourself the question, did you make any progress? You know? But I was speaking to my brother the other day. We're talking about the hunger. We spoke a little bit about hunger. The want to achieve things. And sometimes I was thinking to myself, I was like, sometimes is it also, do people have a tendency to want so many things based on the fact that they didn't have much growing up? Maybe it's like how when you haven't eaten in 2 days. KFC smells very good. You know what I mean? And
it's like just to on your point that you are making.
Yeah.
You see, sugar.
Yeah, I mean in a business context now. Also, even with business.
I'll give you. That's this example. Sugar was such. You see, still now when you go and visit somebody and you bring them sugar, you are such a, the elders will say, oh, no, he was here, he brought us sugar and cooking oil. It was really nice. You are the person. Now, sugar would be hidden. The parents, it's only
in the bedroom.
Hidden in the bedroom. And we used to even have, you see, the thatched room has pillars.
Yeah.
Those, what do you call them in English? It's called what now?
The poles.
The poles. The one that, is it, the poles, the one with sharp like that, so you need to hold it again. So
and
we used to have the taller one, and you jack it up so that one of us can go in, because the grandmother has locked the room with a padlock.
And then you go on the thatch roof.
Elevate it once and then to go and then get the sugar. Somebody must hold it and then you go in quickly.
Yeah.
And you literally eat like that. And you can finish, come. Then another one goes. Like the three of us used to do that. So
I remember
when I came to urban areas and people are talking about, no, too much sugar is not good for you. And you look like these people are crazy. Like, how can you say sugar? Too much sugar is, we
used to jump for this sugar.
Yeah, take a whole of it and things like that. Yeah. Yes, there is the role of hunger. I'm not talking about hunger, the drive. It is what it was. When you hear even stories about how inspirational it is there must be a driver. There must be something that drives you. And for our context, poverty has been a greatest driver. But the difficult question that we have now, particularly with the middle class and our children that succeed, is what would be that driver? Our driver was hunger, poverty, or hunger in terms of the availability of variety, and hunger in terms of comparison of what you have and what others don't have. Because, if you go to deep Kaoko, those people are very happy. But when you go there with your iPhone 15, you think that you have better than them. But they are quite content with what they have. When you go there with your iPhone 16, because your life is now dependent on the iPhone 15 and there's no network coverage there, you become so depressed because you can't send payments, you can't watch Netflix, you can't do so, because your life has become this. You are alienated from the natural setting of a society, and the virtual world now determines who you are and what you're supposed to do, and it starts controlling you. It starts being the order of the day. So we are not saying that even within African traditional society, things have been changing.
Of course.
Yeah, there is no, and this is always the criticism that people, when we're speaking about going back to our roots, you always hear people that, so you want to go and to start wearing the animal skin. Yeah, but as if that's always what it has been in our country. Absolute nonsense. We came from Stone Age to Iron Age, like that. I mean, there's been evolution all the time, from nature, from cultural context. In the village where I grew up, my mother them used to sleep, and the beds that they used to have as children they would be, those beds would, that generation, not specifically them, is that from the animal skin and things like that. That's what they used to have, and then things continue to change. For example, when the Angolans came, when the Angolans came to particularly our villages, how we used to pound mahangu. They were carpenters, and they changed completely what we regard as cultural artifacts today.
Okay.
Actually came from Angola. The Angolan, for example, in Mbundus, in my village, they completely transformed, and they transformed our way of life, and it's not something that, it's something that people take for granted. but it's something that when you think about it carefully, that our society have always been changing. And the criticism is always to say, oh, why are you continuing to do it? I heard apparently that the first CPU, Central Processing Unit, the hard drive of a computer, the first one was the size of the room.
Yeah.
The CPU, big one. But now you just see you have an iPad. How big is a CPU?
True.
That,
true.
Things keep changing, even in the modern context.
True.
Right? So, but the principle doesn't change. Which is the principle? The driver.
No.
So sometimes I think that maybe we shouldn't worry too much. But for as long as we are able to think and plan, if you are a millionaire, right, and you can only afford what a millionaire can afford, if you are able to do proper orientation, and then you are able to influence your son or your daughter in order to say, my father was a millionaire, I'm going to be a billionaire. You see? Or you have your businesses as an entrepreneur, your businesses in Namibia. My father only operated in Namibia. I want to operate in Angola. I want to operate in Mozambique, you see. Right? So it's our ability to understand society, to understand these dynamics, and to understand and see what the driver is. There must be a driver, something that drives you. Had we not been introduced to modernity, the richest person in the village would probably be the one with a lot of cattle.
Yes.
Yeah. But because of the introduction of modernity and the restrictions such as the red line and the movement of cattle, the person who's supposed to be the richest person in the north with 200 heads of cattle is insignificant because the prices of cattle, the prices of meat, that side and the other side has been discriminated and things like that. So we have to really think properly, and it takes us to what is called social engineering.
Yeah.
There ought to be men and women with talent and energy whose responsibility is to engineer the type of society that we want. Yeah. But even you look at what has happened with the apartheid system, that they were broader-born guys whose responsibility was to think and plan the type of economy that we have.
Yeah.
All these insurance companies that we have here,
Yeah.
Sanlam, these were all created by the Hermekar movement.
Do you think racism is a big factor currently on the state, on our economical state?
Absolutely.
Why would you say that? I mean, not previous apartheid. I mean more. Do you still think it still plays a big role currently?
I think just look at the figures from the Employment Equity Commission. The Employment Equity Commission will tell you, in terms of top executives in the private sector, for instance, who are those CEOs of the big companies. I'm not talking about your Kapana selling business,
of course,
or your Yango and things like that. No, that would be one of the indicators. The other indicator would also be who owns 80% of the Namibian economy. Is one race. So there's no doubt whatsoever. So for me, I don't blame the owners of the means of production, because they might have taken it from their father. Yes, the father who might have gotten it through murder and what, but somebody is responsible for that.
Of course.
For allowing that.
Of course.
Yeah. So yes. Ultimately, racism is not necessarily the economic control is a byproduct of racism. Racism is responsible for the current output.
Okay.
But racism is not responsible for its maintenance. Right? So you might be that, yes, I come to this company and then I'm the one who introduced the type of coffee that you are drinking. So I maybe killed everybody who was supplying coffee here, and then I bring just that coffee, Amupanda coffee.
Yes.
Right? And if somebody comes up, where did you get this coffee?
Yeah.
You can explain and say, oh, it's racism. Oh, it's Amupanda who killed and did what?
Yeah.
He's responsible for bringing it here. That's why it's here.
Yeah.
But there will be another question. Okay, fine, we accept that. but who is responsible for keeping it? Because you have a choice to make.
Of course.
You have a choice to make to maintain it. Yeah. So that's why some activists and young people actually talk about black colonialist.
Yeah. And I think because I remember once having a white man, I guess his name is Tim Brunau. I had a podcast with him, and one person in the comment section was like, these white people are only helping their own white business agendas. And I was so confused because I can also think of many businesses that are where people are partnering up, black people, white people. You look at the banks, you look and so forth, right? And I think there has been a lot of racism, but I can genuinely say a lot of great opportunities that have been passed down in my current career come also from my white fellow Namibian colleagues.
He said you have to be very, very, very careful about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because let's see, for example, what is patriarchy?
Mm-hmm.
Or what is the fight against patriarchy? Right? The fight against patriarchy or feminism, loosely translated or defined, would be the fight against male domination over women. Of course, you would have some men that join the women in the fight against patriarchy.
Yes.
But that does not mean that patriarchy start losing its meaning.
Yeah.
So what is it that I'm trying to say in this context? Of course, there are many white people who supported the fight against apartheid. There are many white people who didn't agree with apartheid. Right? There are many whites who are doing good. Ne? But that doesn't change the fact that economic empowerment, black economic empowerment, is necessary because of a reality. You would see, for example, you will never, regardless of these good white people, I have white friends. Well, I'm not sure whether they regard me as a friend, but at least the relationship that we have, I have quite good constructive relationship with white people. Not a lot though, but I have quite good constructive relationship with them. And but the good thing with the white people that I have good relationship, we understand each other.
Yes.
They understand what the principle is about. I can go to a press conference and talk about white and white monopoly capital, but they will never get offended. Why? It's because they understand. It's because they understand that I'm not talking about them as individuals. Hank Madge is full of shit. He's a former MP. He's the president of the Republican Party.
Okay.
Hank Madge is full of shit, but there's something that he does very well. One day he was saying, and he said it to me, and he was saying, see, the problem, Job, is people always blame black people, but the problem is they always blame white people, but the problem is black inferiority complex.
Yeah.
Now this is a white man. It's tough to take.
Yeah.
But he's 100% correct.
Yeah, definitely.
So you see that once we develop, we come to a state where we can still talk about racism, and white people will understand, and white people will also talk about what is wrong, and black people will understand.
Yeah. So
it's that whole thing. Say, for example, in America, very interesting when you just try to understand Eminem. Eminem is, I think it's 50 Cent who was talking about that. Eminem is such a talented rapper that can take many black rappers to be cleaners.
Yeah.
That Slim Shady guy is like, you would think that he was born to do that thing. But they would say rap it's black culture and things like that. Some people would say, no, Eminem is black.
Yeah.
But we know Eminem is white.
We know Eminem is white, yeah.
So it doesn't, just because of Eminem, the origin and the history of hip-hop and rap
doesn't change
because of Eminem, right? And the good things that white people do mustn't change the fact, because you will discover that if you call a meeting of all taxi drivers in Namibia, I'm now talking about taxi driver, not...
Yeah.
They will come, you will see what color they are.
Black.
If you ask for all domestic workers to come,
Mm-hmm.
there will be no question on... If you ask security guards,
Mm-hmm.
they will be of the same color.
Yeah.
Right? So we can't lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But I think generally what then happens is that if you have a correct leadership of society, a leadership that's able to articulate. I mean, I have conversation with white people, and generally why I'm able to have, if you see that I have a relationship with a white person, and very constructive relationship with a white person, we would have spent a lot of time discussing and explaining so that they can understand what I'm about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You see, for example, white people, there was a video of me eating white meat, dog meat.
Mm.
It was a big thing. It was in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like it was, this guy, I mean, horrible. I mean, dog is such a friend. I mean,
yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe that. Did you really do that?
But
oh my God.
Yeah. But it's a normal thing in your culture.
There was a dog that was in Rehoboth there.
Yeah.
I mean, they put up billboards everywhere of Dalton, and then it was somewhere in Rehoboth.
Yeah.
What these guys went to do, they went to put up billboards in the north. What offended me is that I went to Metro, one of the shops there. Mm-hmm. There's a billboard on both sides and this side. They put up to say, this is a dog, a friend, not meat, not food.
Mm-hmm.
Friend, not food, because they wanted to simply complain about this whole thing. I said, okay, this is how we want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, okay, this campaign is going to fail.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to say that put up billboards in Ovamboland or Wamboland because that's where the people who eat dog meat are. Without actually understanding. Nobody goes around slaughtering dog meat every day.
Yeah, of course.
It's a delicacy whenever it is that comes. You put the dog out of his misery in his old age and things. There are only two cases where you slaughter or kill a dog is that he start maybe eating chicken, eggs, and starts barking.
Yeah.
It's in funny ways. Is actually they will never understand that it's dogs that misbehave. So we're having this conversation now with my right friend and he was telling me about some program that is going to do about dogs, the type of dogs. I say, why do you always have this thing called German Shepherd, but we also have local dogs in history and things like that? And he was asking me, are you willing to say, yeah? I said, I have actually 2 dogs at home here in Windhoek. Really? Because it literally and we will have a conversation about dog and dog meat. So I think that in post-independence Namibia, particularly when it comes to issues of racism, we were unable to talk to one another, and when we talk to one another, these are not genuine conversations.
Yeah,
it will be some surface conversation, but not deeply.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have this conversation with white colleagues, and I said, you see, this is what white people did, and this is why is the problem. Yeah. It's like that. So and that's why if you find me with having a relationship like those relationships that I have with white, there's a strong relationship.
Yeah.
My Professor Bipisani, for instance.
Yeah.
He taught me when I came to university. Then we became colleagues, and he was. I look up to him as a political scientist.
Yeah.
And so we would have tough conversation. He would even write an article publicly to rebuke me.
Yeah.
But it never become, because you reach a stage where you are able to see each other as human beings, but by first recognizing my blackness and my history as a black person, by also understanding the historicity of whiteness and all those, so that we are able to. I think generally once you are joining with one another, you should be able to establish strong relationship. And so yes, racism is responsible for the outlook of our economy. Apartheid is responsible for that, but the maintenance of it is this government.
And you think it also affects opportunities for different cultures and different ethnicities?
Because, if you actually think that, why I must fight these things such as the red line and things like that, so that I give my children an opportunity to fight for Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So for as long as we are having these many things that are not resolved at the back of it, it takes up a lot of time so that we can speak about nice things. Things that, you see, for example, when you are running your business, and I'm running a business, and you are in printing business, I need ink. For my machine, and you sell ink, and another person sells. So when you come there, the conversation is about supply of goods and services for my business to continue. Right? It's a business transaction.
Yes.
But for as long as these barriers exist and we don't deal with them, right? For as long as we have this thing to say, okay, you meet in the villages, keep that meat, and this one keep that one. So for as long as those things exist, it tells you exactly what the problem is, because you deny this current generation and future generation of an opportunity to coexist and understand each other without any limitation whatsoever.
So basically, the next generation, if for your children pay for the faults that you don't correct in your life.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because they carry that baggage. They carry that baggage. It's like debt. You hand over a business to your son, that business has debt.
Yeah.
So that debt never goes away.
Yeah.
Just think of it, if you think about it in terms of those business principles. You have committed the business to debt, and those things are there. They're never going to go away. The child will not make profit. They will constantly be producing and be paying that debt. And they will spend a lot of time paying debt. But if you pay off the debt now, no matter how painful it is, you deal with the debt now. You give your child an opportunity to make a profit and an opportunity for the child to invest. In human relations, I'm simply saying that if you deal with these historical injustices, so for example, anyone can go to whatever school that they want, not on the basis of their skin color and things like that. You give an opportunity for everybody. And sometimes when I look at these things, because of racism, what if maybe there's a white person who wants to join me in my village there in my business of a coca shop?
Of course.
Because of racism, they think that that's not for us.
I have to sum up our podcast episode, get closer to the end now, but it's been quite an interesting discussion.
I must apologize. I hope I didn't prevent you from, because I talk too much.
You are getting into details with every answer. It's good. At least.
Hopefully I don't. Maybe if you still have some few questions, I will maybe discipline myself to be sure.
No problem. I'll just ask three more questions, but we can always do another session. Okay. So you're giving us full-on details. I think what I also wanted to know, is there any decision you wish you could have made differently in your career as a mayor?
Well, when I went to Stellenbosch, it's an Afrikaans university. I regret not learning Afrikaans. That I regret not learning Afrikaans. Because ultimately it's just a language.
Yes.
I realize as I grow that I don't lose anything from learning Afrikaans. But of course, I'm also very serious about African languages to also be taught. But now people can gossip about me in Afrikaans and I won't hear.
And you won't hear anything.
So that's one of the things that I actually regret not doing. So there are also other things that I regret.
Of course.
Overly investing in people who turn out to betray me. And not investing in people who are actually who care about me and what I stand for in the things. But even if I regret from all those things, I get to learn.
Of course.
I get to learn. Even with the thing with the Afrikaans, it's just that I realize that you can be angry about something, but never lose your rationality. No matter how angry you are about something, but never lose your rationality. You must always discipline yourself and say, I'm angry now, but let me just wash my face and think rationally about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes when we take decisions when we are angry, it also becomes quite very problematic.
Okay. Since we are an entrepreneurship podcast, I also wanted to find out what do you think? What do you think the older generation mainly? Because I think it's quite normal for every older generation to look down on the next generation, like, look what they have, look what they have. What do you think they need to do in terms of providing a better platform and for younger people to thrive?
I think if it was up to me, if I was a billionaire, all these old people who are in positions, I will round them up and create consultancy and advisory services.
Yeah.
Right? Because they, whether in business or otherwise, they stick around for too long. There's an African saying that a good dancer must know when to get out of the dancing floor.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah,
I love that.
So sometimes they stay for too long and they don't even realize that they are old, and the young start contesting them and pushing them away.
Yeah.
Now, when you are pushed away, you no longer have an opportunity to mentor, to transfer, to orientate. Like we have a lot of leaders, be it in politics or in business, whose business just collapses. Like in the north, there's a lot of businesses who, when the owner dies, the business dies with him. Yeah. In politics, we also the same. The person loses an election, they just go in the villages there and they really start living miserable lives. How do they live miserable lives? They live miserable lives because when they were in office, they didn't really have much, and the society starts being apprehensive towards them and said, "Yeah, you were working there. What did you do?" So if it was up to me, I would actually round them up, and while there's still time, then they can start doing advisory and consultancy. You know, sometimes it's a complex subject. You just, for example, when I became a mayor, I remember the late Matthew Shikongo.
Yeah.
But he unfortunately later died. He died, 2 months after. It's an old man. He was a former mayor.
Yeah.
And he decided to come to me. And he was now saying, no, the reason why he came to me, he was saying, I see how agitated you are, how fired up you are. I just wanted to share with you my story, my experiences, how I dealt with the regime, with the government when I was a mayor.
Yeah.
This is what they did to me, and this is what we managed. This is how I navigated. Yeah? And it was quite very profound for me. Because sometimes by the time when we have to look for these leaders to advise us when they were naturally pushed out by circumstances, they are nowhere to be found. They are trying maybe to survive, or they are dead and things like that. I want in my 70s to just be relaxed somewhere, you know, and whoever it is that wants to hear or my views about it, then they will travel to the village and they will come, then they will hear. I don't want to be in my 70s and fighting with 30-year-olds for positions and things like that. So I think a good dancer, as they always say, must know when to leave the dance floor. Because you will be a good dancer, you stay in the dance floor before you know it. Before you know it, there are guys who can dance better than you. But leave while everyone is celebrating you as the best dancer.
Yes, of course.
You know, leave during that time as because that's why you have these guys in Zidane.
Yeah, perfect. Is that the message you are comfortable leaving the podcast with? A good dancer knows when to leave the dance floor.
Yes, absolutely.
I think
even just also to say, as a good dancer in the podcast, I must know
when to leave the floor. Okay, lovely. I really appreciate this opportunity. I think to always have people like you on this podcast, it's always a reminder of going in a good direction of where we're trying to take this podcast and everything. So I really thank you so much for being a guest, and I think you've brought a very philosophical approach, so it's quite a refreshing perspective, and I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I think we'd love to have you over again with more time. I think it's very easy to get to fall into our topics, when we're passionate about things. So thank you so much, Dr. Amupanda. And
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I'm always very happy to have young people who are taking initiatives. So the other day I was called to an online radio.
Yeah.
It is not known much, but I decided to go because I was
Lovely.
excited.
Yeah.
And I was saying, oh, you guys are just here in the building. You guys are online. You are not saying that you don't give up because you are big. You are not big like those other ones. You have a huge listenership, and it motivates me because it takes me back to my
to your younger days. Yeah.
When I came from the village to the University of Namibia, and I was going to run now for SRC president. I didn't. My English, as you can see, my English is not excellent.
Yeah.
Because I didn't go to private schools and things like that. I went to a public school, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the school that I went to. But during that time, everybody wrote you off because you are not from St. Paul's. You are not from these nice schools. You don't speak good English. You don't speak Afrikaans. You don't wear cool clothes and things like that. But people always write you out. You're always an underdog, and you always emerge victorious. So every underdog, every person who's undermined, every person who's trying something, particularly when they are young, I get very excited about. And I think maybe that's what God sent me here to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you then. Lovely. Let's give it a handshake.
Thanks.
All right.